Yo, 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 what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back welcoming you to the Friday night chop session with Stormybman for this Friday, November 26th, 2021. It's the day after Thanksgiving, and I know all of your bellies are full, so now it's just time to sit back and listen to some boxing talk from the Stormybman channel. Welcome everybody. I hope that everyone has had a safe and happy, healthy holiday day off. And for some of y'all that was out there amongst the madcaps trying to do the Black Friday thing, God bless you. But now it's time for the Friday night chop session. This is number 133, and we're calling this one Put Your Mouth Where Your Fists Are. Okay, some people used to say put your money where your mouth is, but in this, giving the analogy and talking about the sport of boxing, there's been a lot of bumping of the gums and chit chat and chitter chatter or whatever you want to call it. But one of these things, well, one thing I should say that we should understand is that these guys need to get their butts in the ring, man. Stop all that talking, man. That's another thing that social media has done, is created too many microphones and cameras, and not enough of the action that we declare that we want to see. So therein lies your title for this evening's show. Want to take it right on out to the chat real quick. To do a little bit of a roll call. We got people out there that's been waiting, and we got people out there that's peeping through the blinds and bushes, as they always do. The bare minimum of support. They giving me the views, but you know, they ain't coming in to participate with me and yous. That's what it is. So we got Big Homie Coop out there. He says, salute Sifu, back smack that like button, and class is in session, so pay attention. You know what I'm saying? That's what my man says. When he's out there, that's my juice. Healer, the mind body coach, is with us this evening. He says, salute to you, my man. Hope you had a great holiday. And Yahweh is out there, channel member, saying salute to all. DJ Zion Love is out there saying salute, King. Right back at you, brother. Good to see you out here in the chat, man. Appreciate you. I saw you on the channel the other day and got a chance to chop some things up over there. Lost D Punch Out TV. He says, am here. Now you're going to go in on me over Bud versus Porter. Salute Stormy OG. No, man, I ain't going to go in on you, but I'm glad you're here, Lost D, man, because you know you was on the run, And there's no need to be on the run because you one of my partners out there, man. And I've been wondering why I hadn't seen Lost D around. So it's good to see you out there, bro. Big homie is saluting Focus Ball and Yahweh. Curtis Price is out there. He says, right on, 1,000. Amen. Yes, sir. Yahweh is saluting right back. And we got Jaquavius Moore out there saying, salute, Stormy. Crawford beats Spence. And you know this. Rashid Rourke is out there saying, peace to the Wiseman, Stormy B-Man. Appreciate you, Rashid. Good to see you this evening. And my man Bruce Goes, fresh off of his live stream, is in the chat with us saying, salute, my brother. Salute to you. And he says, thank you for your support. Hey, man, anytime. You know what I'm saying? Bruce Goes, for you all that don't know, is starting his own channel up, and he's got some streams going that he's done already. And he'll be popping up on the airwaves. So I like to say that anybody that's out here in this chat, on this live, please go over and show some support by subscribing to Bruce Goes' channel, man. And, you know, you can get that bell icon so you can find out when he goes live, so you get the notifications, man. We got to support each other out in the community. And nobody supports like Bruce Goes. That man has spread himself throughout all the channels out here that go live. I don't know how he had the energy to do it and then start up his own channel. But blessings to you for that, Bruce Goes. Another OG veteran with a tremendous amount of knowledge on the sport of boxing. And Bruce, if you want to put your link in the chat, you feel free to do so, brother. And let's see, we got Lost D saying, I was ducking you, Stormy. You ain't got to duck me, man. It's just like I said when I, did my post-fight and my final thoughts on that fight, man. I don't be out here trying to wag the finger and hold people's feet to the fire. I like to hold the fighters' feet to the fire, because these guys be running so much from one another and mere challenges in the sport. Maybe if we hold their feet to the fire, they can't move too good, huh? With them blisters on the bottom of them feet. So that's what I say. Lost D is saying, Bruce Goes, what a fantastic live stream. I really appreciate your boxing channel. Yes, sir. And see, that's one thing about Lost D, man. He's a loyal supporter too. He gets out there. Sometimes he be in the chat or in the stream, and you don't even know it if he's not writing in there. Yahweh saying, where's the link at Bruce Goes? He just put it up. Okay. So again, welcome everybody. Smash that like button as you come on in. Lost D says, you was bang on Bud versus Porter. Yeah, it gets easier when you have enough information on the fighters. Just know that, like I said many times over, I don't support the individual, I support the sport. And that allows me sometimes to have a clear, in-depth insight and focus on the fighters. You can be wrong about a pick here and there or whatever, but the consensus outside of things that are beyond your control, it usually fall in the line of the information that you have. One of the ones that I really didn't like, that left a bitter taste in my mouth, was a young man that's fighting up this weekend. That's Teofimo Lopez, when he took on Vasily Lomachenko. You could not have gauged that Vasily was going to enter that fight and not throw punches for the first 6 rounds. I mean, there is no way anyone would have known that. And after I saw that, it really made me rethink a lot of things when it comes to this boxing. So to be able to have a prognosis and look at a fight with all things being on the level, I go from there. But things that are off the level, behind, under the table or whatever, those are the things you cannot account for. I've never seen a championship caliber fighter go in a fight and not throw punches for the first 6 rounds. Never saw that before. And hopefully never have to sit through anything like that again. Huh? And the mere fact that he did break out and start throwing punches, applying pressure on T.O. in those later rounds, and T.O. was starting to wither under those actions of aggression. Had he just opened the fight like that, he may have gotten a middle to late round stoppage. But hey, and why you think T.O. don't want to get back in there with him? Huh? The heat. That's right. Salute to my man, Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. I see you out there, brother. Hopefully you be on with us in a moment. And what else we got? Tay Brown, the queen, is out there. She says, peace and blessings, Stormybman, Sifu. Peace and blessings to you, sister. Hope your Thanksgiving was good. I don't know if you cooked or if you went visiting to grab that plate, but I hope it was good for you all the same. And you still can make that trek over to the merchandise mart here on the Stormybman station. Click that link and get you one of them t-shirts, so Stormy can see you rocking the t-shirts like the other people be rocking the gear of these people out here on YouTube. Huh? Yeah. Appreciate you. Lars D says, Lopez is a clown. Well, he sure has been a part of a circus, ain't he? The guy's been out here doing everything and anything except boxing in the ring. Huh? That's what you notice. So it's a circus. Macada's Mac of the South is out there with us. He says, salute Big Bro, King, Stormybman, Sensei, the Grand Master. Appreciate you, Macada's Mac. Good to see you with us again, bro. I got you, Reggie. Yeah, man, it's, fight week. We got some big fights coming up, and we'll talk about that a little bit this evening too. But it's just interesting when you see how these men move out here in the boxing streets, man. Or how they don't move. Because though we've been getting some decent fights over the past few weeks and couple of months, we haven't been getting what we really want. That's still an issue. And what the hell is up with them making every fight a pay-per-view, man? We gotta talk about that. Because all of these fights ain't pay-per-view fights, man. Some of them are just good tussles that should be on a Friday or Saturday night, or even a Tuesday night like they used to be back in the day, to give us some boxing to watch in between the big fights. How you gonna have 2 pay-per-views on in the same day, and even the main features of those are not worthy to be main events on other cards? Come on, they got to stop this mess. But I'll say this about the sport of boxing. We are seeing a tremendous come up of the ladies, the women of boxing. We've had some great fights coming up. We've had some great fights that have come to pass. And we've seen some stars out there get busy in women's boxing. And don't forget, next month we have the return of Clarissa T-Rex Shields. The GOAT. She's coming back. So the year just keeps getting better and better for women's boxing. And I love that, man. Shout out to the women of boxing. Who else we got here? We got Laws D saying, taking pictures with Canelo Alvarez with his belts. And Canelo said to Lopez, "You're not undisputed." Yeah, man. The dude is, listen. Hopefully, George Kambosos will be enough to live up to his nickname, Ferocious, and deal with this guy. But unfortunately, I'm not so high on that happening. But if it does, I won't be mad, as they say. Won't be mad. And Law says, yes, Harper got iced. Yeah, but you know something? Laws D, the outcome of that fight was so professional. I mean, I watched from the opening bell. Alicia Baumgardner, man, she come out there. She was snapping her jab. She dropped her left hand a little bit tactically, strategically, to give, Harper a different look. And Harper was a little bit befuddled by what she was doing. But when she hit her with that 1-2, that right hand was right on the chin. A lot like when Juan Manuel Marquez knocked out Manny Pacquiao in their 4th fight. But the difference was she hit her so clean and sharp that Harper froze, stood straight up. Her legs went stiff, and she took a step sideways like she was sleepwalking, and she was literally out on her feet. And just as Baumgardner got ready to finish up with some telling blows, the ref had jumped between them. She even hit the ref because she was swinging to finish her off, but the ref recognized the state that Terry Harper was in, and he just jumped in there and called the fight, which I'm glad, because the woman was out on her feet. She was like sleepwalking, and she could have fallen and hit her head on the canvas or something. It was like, a very good stoppage, but it was definitely a knockout. Definitely a knockout. So, and I heard that Harper has rejected a rematch and is looking to go and, get herself together again or whatever. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. And salute to the champ that won the fight. She calls herself the Bomb, and she be dropping bombs. Great entertainment it was on that night. And that was also the night that we saw Kid Galahad lose to Kiko Martinez in another upset of the year type match, man. That was something else to see as well. I just did a video on my final thoughts on that this week. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, please go on my page under the videos and check out, Galahad versus Kiko, because that was a good fight. So much stuff was going on between the fight and the aftermath of the fight that I didn't get a chance to do my video on it. And I had to complete the process because I did one on Baumgardner and her magnificent performance. I had to follow up with Kiko's tremendous victory. Man, I'm telling you, better leave them Spaniards alone right now. Let them cool off because they hot right now, huh? They are hot. So, yeah, if you guys haven't had a chance to check that out, please do so. Smash that like button as you come in, people. I see we've got more people coming in. Let's see, who is this we got here? Champion Heart is out there. He's saluting Reggie. Reggie's still in the chat, I think. And everybody else is kind of saluting each other. That's cool. But yeah, I thought we would start it off with a little bit of fight news, huh? Fight news and what's happening in the sport of boxing. Well, we could talk about this fight news. I was checking out Boxing Scene and I saw an interesting article, man. Very interesting article because this particular article that I saw had a news update about Frank Sanchez, the Cuban heavyweight. Now, what's interesting is because the heavyweight division is thinning out, it's good to see that a fighter who should get some recognition is getting a little press. And this particular article, according to Boxing Scene, the headline of it was the manager, Frank Sanchez, says he can beat Tyson Fury right now. Now, this was published earlier today, very early this morning. And Mike Borrao, the manager of heavyweight contender Frank Sanchez, is confident his boxer is capable of beating WBC world champion Tyson Fury. Sanchez, who's 19-0, is currently ranked at 6 by the WBC. In his most recent fight, Sanchez saw action in September as part of the undercard to Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder trilogy fight. Sanchez outboxed fellow unbeaten Efe Ajagba over 12 rounds for a unanimous decision win, while Fury knocked out Wilder in the 11th round in the main event. The Cuban boxer is a gym stablemate of Mexican star Saul Canelo Alvarez. The two boxers are trained by Eddie Reynoso. It goes on to say that Fury is looking to return to the ring in the first quarter of 2022. There is no set opponent at the moment, but the two front runners are British heavyweights Dillian White and Joe Joyce. I'm telling you right now, if it's either of those two guys, this is a great matchup for Frank Sanchez, because Sanchez is a talented heavyweight, every bit as talented as someone you would say like Jarek Bit Baby Anderson, and is a face in boxing that, again, when you see his skill set, you know that he can box, he can punch, he can move, and he's a little bit athletic in there. He's like a very large Arislandi Lara, but he's orthodox. He's not a southpaw. And he's got great combinations. He puts his punches together very well. It goes on to say Sanchez is back in the ring on January 1st when he faces Carlos Negron as part of the undercard to the heavyweight scrap between Luis King Kong Ortiz and Prince Charles Martin. Frank Sanchez is one of the most active, high-profile fighters today. Frank was the co-main event for Fury and Wilder 3. Yes, he was. And he performed admirably in that fight. And he said he has featured on Canelo's pay-per-view fights. And he is now a co-main event for the Charles Martin Luis Ortiz pay-per-view fight. His rise has been extraordinary, as well as his undeniable talent, Barao told Sky Sports. He goes on to say, I think Frank Sanchez beats Tyson Fury today. Tyson is no fool, so I doubt you will see a voluntary defense against Frank anytime soon. He will have to force the issue by beating guys like Efe Ajagba and work towards the mandatory. At Frank's current pace, I have no doubt he will become #1 contender in short order. The day Frank Sanchez gets the opportunity and fights for a world title is the day that he becomes heavyweight champion. Not so fast, because there are a lot of roadblocks that the Cuban fighters find before them when you talk about championship fights. And I think that that's where Frank may run into some problems there. But before we go any further, let me welcome my co-host of the show here. We got Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens on deck. What's going on with you, Reggie? How you doing, bro?
Man, doing good, OG. Doing good. Salute to everybody in the chat as well.
Yes, sir. Hey, man. I was just polishing up an article that I read a little earlier today about Frank Sanchez looking, at an opportunity at Tyson Fury, which is, I think it's a good fight, but it's a dangerous fight for Fury because, Fury is, he's not looking to do a lot of title defenses, if any. He wants to get out while he can. And guys like Frank Sanchez, the aforementioned Jared Big Baby Anderson, and a few others, they're breathing down Fury's neck because we got some hungry, young, talented fighters out there, Reggie. And I'd like to see any of those guys get a shot against Tyson Fury. But what are your thoughts about this article I just read about Frank Sanchez?
I want to see the fight, man. I think that's a good testament. I think Sanchez is probably one of the more skilled boxers that's in the heavyweight division, who I think has been overlooked for quite some time. He looked good versus Efe, able to put Efe down. Him and Fury, skill for skill, they probably the two fighters with the best skill set outside of Luis Ortiz as well. But me in this fight, I still favor Tyson Fury in it, even though I want to see it. I think Tyson Fury's a real hard task for a lot of these guys in this division. But I would like to see, being that Sanchez has great footwork, I think footwork has to be able to match Tyson Fury to be able to be competitive with him. And someone with fluid feet as Sanchez will probably be competitive against Tyson Fury. It's just whether Sanchez can go deep, go into them longer rounds, deal with Tyson Fury trying to lay weight, if Tyson Fury can lay weight on him, dealing with the roughhouse tactics. Can he be rough? He showed that he can be rough the way he fought Efe, but I think Fury is something different than Efe. I want to see the fight, but I think I favor Fury in it, even though I would like for Sanchez to win it. I don't know if he can complete the task though, but I would like to see it.
Yeah, and I think also that Fury should be favored against pretty much all of the guys because he's now, a proven and established commodity at the division with the WBC title. But to make a fight against one of the other talents that are out there in the top ratings, the task gets more difficult because although he fought a puncher in Wilder, some of these guys have some pretty good boxing skills, Reggie, and some of them have been boxing from youth and have it Olympic experience. So that's something. And even though Wilder had Olympic experience, the Olympic experience of these fighters that are mentioned goes deeper than Wilder's because a lot of them came up from the younger ages, and made it to the Olympics and are now professionals and everything like that. So the more studied up fighters are, the more they level that playing field with Fury, where nothing more than just his physical attributes become a challenge, which is his height and his reach. And if he decides to continue to try to carry that imposing weight around. if you ask me, the weight factor would become a little bit more realistic, I believe, because I don't think that he'll be able to use the stamina of carrying that weight against some of these more experienced guys, because they will require more of that mobility and things like that. And you know, until he tried to do that against Wilder, he wasn't doing that before. So I think he'll go back to, you know, trying to be normal as far as what it was for him, 250 pounds or something like that. You know, I just don't think that staying up that high level weight against some of these more seasoned fighters, boxing wise and agility wise and IQ wise, that it will be the same type of challenge. What do you think about what I said on that?
No, I'm still going with what I was saying. I think Tyson Fury, I don't know if his weight and cardio is an issue at all. He carries that weight well, and I think him working with what's that dude, Sugar Hill, they know what they're doing with their weight, and I think he goes about the science of studying these opponents appropriately. I gotta see it. I gotta see it done to this dude. I just think Tyson Fury may be able to lead this division as an undefeated champion, unless Frank Sanchez. I don't know. I don't even know if what's that kid that's over in Top Rank. What's that dude, Jared Anderson? I don't even know if he's capable of defeating Tyson Fury at this point. I just think Tyson Fury is that guy at this division. I just think he's that guy. But there are some more complete boxers within the division. But dealing with that height and range of Tyson Fury's ability to move, I don't think none of them are going to knock him off. But I would like to see it, but I don't think they're going to do it.
It'd be interesting to see him and Usyk, because Usyk is probably the most complete fighter. What will happen is how he'll adjust to the weight. The height is not as difficult for Usyk because he's fought tall guys pretty much his career, and he's fared very successful against them. He even beat up Joe Joyce, you know, in the amateurs. So it's like that, and we saw what he did to Anthony Joshua. The height and the reach, it'll be a problem for a few rounds, but Usyk knows how to work against that. The weight would definitely be a factor if Tyson chose to do that. But like I said before, I don't think that that's always in the toolbox for them. I think it was done against Wilder for a specific reason, and they got the exact results that they wanted out of that. But if you remember his fight against Oliver Wallen, he still weighed a significant amount more than Wallen, and Wallen still was like hanging with him because he's a legitimate, strong heavyweight. But thus is the case. It's for if you're looking for someone to just lead the charge into the next whatever, I don't know that Tyson Fury is that guy, and a lot of these other guys are pretty evenly matched, only differing in certain departments. So that's what's really cool, is that things are starting to level out. And if you keep your eye on it, it's like I said before, not tonight's show, but I said this in the past. I said the heavyweights will soon go back to being the 6'3", 6'4" guys, even 6'2", eventually, because some of these giraffes have found themselves in the division, and a lot of the men who came into the pro ranks were not accomplished amateurs, so they didn't know how to fight tall guys and stuff like the Klitschko's, and then came Fury, and then, you know, where we are now, men who have been through the amateurs, through all the ranks and everything, and then got to pros. They have more of insight on how to deal with those adverse qualities that these fighters have. There's a few that out there, and they'll fall by the wayside. They can't deal with that. But men who have had that amateur and pro experience, and then again Olympic experience, they understand, because they have to fight all these different types of styles and, you know, size and reaches of these fighters. So it remains interesting. So And I think I just thought about something, Reggie, that the Fury camp went back and looked at. Because if you put the two things together, you'll see. You remember when Wilder got dropped and he was having a rough go in the amateurs, that one fight he had? Do you remember that? Or did you ever see it?
No, I don't think I ever seen. Was it? No, I don't think I ever seen. I know I seen one in sparring or something. It
was against a German guy. I can't think of his name right now. Few months ago when I did that, I played that tape of him and with the music. They showed that clip of him with that guy in the amateurs. If my memory serves me correct, the way that guy got at Wilder, that's exactly how Fury attacked him. And they got the same result. But it hadn't been anybody that fought him like that since that guy. And maybe they were studying up the film on him, and then they found some advantages there. But I don't want to go off into Fury and Wilder on a tangent like that. But I would like to see Frank Sanchez get an opportunity against another named heavyweight so we can see what he has to offer, further than beyond what he did with Efe Ajagba. Because I think that he could have really went in on Ajagba, but he didn't, and he still dropped him. So I like how the heavyweight division is shaping up, because if you get a lot of guys that are kind of like near each other in status and skill and technique and all of that, it's going to make for some interesting fights, big time.
Yeah, most definite. Yeah, and the heavyweights got to start fighting. But I like the way it's going to kick off in 2022 with the Charles Martin, Luis Ortiz heavyweight pay-per-view.
Yeah, and that right there is a card that we can talk about that a little more, and we get some of these other news notes out of the way. We also heard in the news this week, Reggie, one of the former champions, Keith, running out of time, Thurman. he come out here talking crap again, and now he's talking about he want to fight Bud Crawford, and he want to fight Earl Spence, and he want to fight you and me too on the same night and everything. But he been out of the ring since he lost to Manny Pacquiao, which is about 2-3 years ago, and he ain't looked like he been in the gym trying to get in shape for nothing. But he, in his remarks about talking about the two top welterweights, he's saying like, oh yeah, give me 8 months and I'll get in there. Bud had a very interesting response to that when he heard that. But what are your thoughts about Keith Thurman, man?
Yeah, Mama needs some Himalayan red bottoms, so she's forcing him back into the ring. That's the only reason why he's talking about fighting, man. If he needs 8 months, that shows that he thought he could retire. But like I said, Mama needs some of them Himalayan heels, and she forcing that boy back out there to get that money for the village. It's just him gonna go out there. He's gonna go out there and get embarrassed. I would love to see what Bud does to him. I would definitely want to see what Earl Spence does to him. If Bud and Earl don't line up, Earl needs that Keith Thurman fight so we can finally put this dude to rest in the sport, because that was the most shameful thing in this age of boxing, to watch Keith Thurman prance about the sport the way he did, and then only to give up the titles to a guy from a previous era to upstage this new era. Like, he was embarrassed. And I think he owes that retribution to Earl Spence or even the Bud. But 8 months, man, Keith Thurman, you might as well stay retired, man.
That's crazy, man. Because you would think that, okay, if you're going to be trying to call somebody out, be ready to go right now, huh? Don't be trying to, wait a minute, hold up. The train keeps moving, man. And you get pulled up under those tracks and get run over if you ain't ready. And Bud Crawford was like, wait a minute. He said, I'll take the fight. He's like, but what we need 8 months for? That just goes to show that he ain't confident in himself, And Bud is right. It's like, dude, you were sitting on the sofa and By the way, he look a lot better in his suit right here on this picture and everything than Sean Porter look in some of those, leprechaun outfits he be wearing and everything. But I will say that he probably should stay right there in the studio, because Keith Thurman may be a better color analyst than he is a fighter. You know what I mean? And the longer he waits between fights to fight again, you just have another generation of good fighters coming up. And we've seen it in Virgil Ortiz and Jerron Boots Ennis and Rashidi Ellis. And, dude, time waits for no one. And Father Time is undefeated. So Keith better watch out, man. Because the more time he spend outside of the ring, the further back that hairline gets pushed, as you can see. And, it just, I think his day is pretty much done at the top of the division. Now, he could be someone who can be a trial horse is testing out some of these young fighters, but I don't believe he has he still has what he once had when he was hungry, when he was pursuing and chasing, and he was trying to get Floyd in the ring with him and all of that. But that was because he was hungry. Couple $1 million paydays, it'll soften you up, man, like silk, huh? And I think that's what happened to Keith. And he's always had trouble with those body shots, and we've got some humdinger of body punchers out there. Anybody seen Stanionis? So it's like, listen, man, it's just interesting that this guy would say that. But I think at the end of the day, Reggie, it was more of him just trying to keep his name relevant and everything, because he sees that the spotlight is now really shining in on Earl and, Bud. And even though they are his contemporaries, they're not thinking about him right now, as well as they should not. They should just keep on going about their own careers and doing what they do. Make the best of the fights that they can between themselves, because Boots and Virgil and Ellis and those kind of guys, they're coming. And you won't be able to hold them off too much longer. You agree with that?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. And he set up the game too long. You cannot sit away from the sport as long as he has, and then talk about you need another 8 months. Like, there's too much new talent on its way up that the focus is shifted towards. It's almost like people really don't know who Keith Thurman is anymore. And why would a fighter settle upon fighting Keith Thurman when everybody's looking to maximize the type of money they're looking to make? Keith Thurman's not a draw. And I think from his he came off of a loss. So what the hell he think he's going to jump into the hunt, being not an undefeated, but a recently defeated fighter, to an older Manny Pacquiao who has got back in the ring since beating Keith Thurman. And Keith Thurman still hasn't gotten in the ring since losing to him. Like, this dude is just so backwards. Like, nobody wants to see a Keith Thurman fight. He'll set a fighter up that steps in the ring with him back financially. Like, he's an afterthought to a lot of these guys. He got to get in here, fight one of these top prospects, see where he's at, if he's the gatekeeper or not, and then he'll probably get himself into being able to fight one of these dudes.
Yeah, like I said, boxing is one of, I think, the only other sport that transitions so quickly is football, the NFL, because a couple of free agent signings puts you in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And you went from worst to first. That happens in football, but in boxing, you could be a championship caliber fighter and you lose, and you'll drop to the bottom of the rungs because there are some guys who've been waiting to get to the top when you was champ, and you got to get behind them now. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's Keith's predicament at the moment. That's exactly what it is for him. You know what I mean? So, hey, tough tamales, man. But I hope, like I said, if he wanted to really come back to the sport, just come back and fight some of these young guys. And if you still got it to put them away, there's nothing wrong with that. You just you stay relevant for real. But I don't think you should hop, skip, and jump over these men who have been toiling. Excuse me, I'm using the wrong word. Toiling in the sport, putting themselves in position for a better opportunity. I don't think you should be able to get ahead of those guys. You know what I mean? So that's two of the news items that I had on that, Reggie. Did you have something that you would like to add that you may have heard about this week, or something that we can discuss before we move on?
No, we can move on. You know, I've been following all the social court stuff, and so I haven't been following too much on the boxing stuff as far as news reports come. Yeah,
understood. And how about let's take a moment out to revisit something from last week's fight. And Reggie, that's basically how Bud Crawford finally got back at Bob Arum, you know, at that post-fight press conference, man. And man, he did it. You have to salute the brother, because you remember when Bob made those remarks that he could have bought a house in Beverly Hills and blah, 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 and this and that. And then, you know, when people had asked Bud what he thought about what Bob said and everything, you know, that was well over a year ago and everything. But there was something that I take away from that. And it's how I'm looking at how Bud handled that too, because when he said what he said about Bob, people were like, oh man, no, Bud, you know, because he's like, y'all don't know his heart and this and that. Remember those remarks? And you know, but Bob was like really going in on Bud. You know, he never really promoted the man, as talented as he is, never really promoted him properly and everything. But what were your thoughts about how Bud, you know, went at Bob at the press conference, kind of with his shoulder halfway turned away from him like this, and speaking, you know, sincerely to the media that was, you know, throwing the questions at him?
Oh man, I had a big full-time celebration in here after watching that video, listening to Bud give the appropriate response to a dude who thought he can play him out in front of the public. And the last laugh was on Bob Arum. And a heartbreaking cry was given from Bob Arum's mouth. He couldn't hold on to his breath, and internally he is crying. That was a deep piercing wound that Bud delivered on stage in front of all of the media spectators that watch him be embarrassed by that. And also it's funny looking at all this highlight footage that Top Rank is putting up of this fight, and now trying to show praise and respect for Crawford. I love the way Crawford delivered that. And it was funny how the question came out about what's next. Well, Bob ain't delivered me this Earl Spence fight. What makes him think he's gonna be able to do it if I was signed for him? I'm already gone. It's over with. Now what you gonna do? I'm the number one selling dude over in this trash company. What else he's gonna do? He can't develop anything. He's gonna have a hard time trying to generate the money off of Tyson Fury, being there's no Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilders that are out there. AJ done messed up the game. You got to fight these other fights. And what is Bob going to do? Fold up. This is what Bob Arum gets for taking away so many of the much needed fights within the sports. He's been doing it for decades, and it's time that Bud Crawford finally broke his back, because nobody's ever delivered any kind of statement like this to Bob Arum, except for Bud Crawford. When many people have criticized Bud Crawford for what he's done, Bud Crawford stood there silently. He worked out the contract. You know, he fulfilled his end. And he's an honorable dude. I get Bud. He's a super honorable dude. He ain't going to cry. He ain't going to complain. He's going to work on through it. Let's see if you're going to do your part. If you're not, it's going to hurt you in the end, businessman. And that's exactly what happened. And the businessman who thought he was smart got his ass played out.
And I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it like that, Reggie, because that's now how I'm viewing that. Because it was almost like it was still too far into his contract with Bob and no fight on the horizon for him to have started railing against Bob, you know, and saying stuff that could come back and haunt him as a disgruntled fighter, you know, and that's not something that's necessarily going to benefit him. So when by he, you know, buying his time, finally getting a fight that, you know, he wanted, and he did say this. He said it at the presser for against Porter. He said that, you know, people don't know. He was trying to make fights. It was Bob the whole time. Bob wasn't trying to make the fights for Bud because he wanted to make sure that he could keep Bud like under his thumb or something, some kind of weird power play, you know. And it was, you could kind of almost tell that, you know, when Bud won this fight, he was chomping at the bit for somebody to ask him about Bob Arum because he was totally ready for it. And he took care of business. He said it like you said. He kept all of that anger, all of that, and he was able to articulate his feelings without being angry, without being in a rage, without using profanity. He just told the truth on Bob. And did you see Bob's look? He looked like that damn Depends was about to bust. Had so much crap in it, huh? When Bud started saying what he was saying, because Bud ain't never talked like that his entire time under the Top Rank umbrella. And when he was asked, you know, about, securing a good fight against someone else and this and that, and he was like, Bob couldn't secure those fights before, and he ain't gonna be able to secure them when I'm gone. So it's like, and then he said, and good luck to the best of wishes to everybody that's there. That was class, bro. You know what I'm saying? Microphone drop time. It was excellent. So all of the people that criticized Bud and everything for that time, I can understand now, hindsight being 2020, why he kind of kept everything under his lid, because he was still contractually obligated to the guy. And he is witness to some of the things that Bob did to other people, stalling them out with fights, inactivity, getting their titles away from them, making them get stripped from their titles. See, Porter was supposed to be, remember, the consensus by everybody that thought about this fight. Porter was going to beat him. That was the thought by a lot of people, including probably Bob, which is why he let that go the way that it went. Because, listen, even the scorecards on the fight, Porter was probably winning at the time of the stoppage on the cards. But Bud took fate in his own hands, and he stopped him. He still got his belt, and he goes on. You gotta love that, man, because he got out clean. You know, he didn't get out like Manny. They took Manny's belt before Manny left. Floyd dropped the belt before he left. So did De La Hoya. And so when you see these guys, you know, come out clean like that, you can't do nothing but applaud them, man, and wish them well on their endeavors, because that was excellent, man. That was totally excellent. And like I said, nobody expected him to articulate his words, his expression, his feeling about everything he had gone through. Because remember, he could be a jerk and get up on the dais and say a lot of stuff and use profanity and say, man, you ain't never did nothing for me and this and that, blah, blah, blah. He didn't do that. He still showed class at the end. And then wished them all well as he was heading out the door. Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Right.
You know?
Good thing he didn't go Adrian Broner on him.
Right.
Backfire.
Right. And see, when you do that and you're not in a win-win position, you could be in a win-lose position. The powers that be can turn that against you, and it can work against you. But how could you go against Bud after showing class with Porter? And that was genuine because they are friends. And then showing class at the post fight. He did it the right way. He did it the right way. And you know what? He gonna be all right, Reggie. The naysayers and detractors can remain being who they are. I now feel like they're nothing but a motivation tool for him now. And remember, fighters always need something to keep that motivation going, because you can only spend so many millions or have them in your bank or whatever, right? Or blow them. But motivation, how does a fighter stay hungry? How does a fighter stay and remain on top of his game? By setting new goals of, I'm going to prove you wrong and you wrong and you wrong, and keep going about their business. That's the way you do it. You know? And he don't have the bad habits that a lot of the guys have, which is like, you know, hanging out at the nightclubs and with the Instagram women and all of that stuff. He like to go fishing with his boys and stuff. It's like, hey man, he don't drink and do all of that stuff. So you ain't gonna get him with that. You know? So, you know, let him do his thing. And I'm just so glad that he did say those things. It was almost like he was holding it, Reggie. He was holding it. And he dropped it. Oh, yeah. And Bob was over there. Derek, can you come and take me so I can get changed? Yeah, that's right. Beautiful stuff, Reggie. Beautiful stuff, man. So, yeah. And the other part about this fight, and I just wanted to kind of let us talk about that a little more, is, you know, Shawn Porter and how he handled himself, and you know, in the aftermath. There were a few chances to hear what he had to say in the aftermath of the fight. One of the things that got released the very next morning on Sky Sports that I saw, it was like a 5-minute video. It could have been much longer, but I only saw the 5-minute version of it, where he talked about what happened the night before. And then, of course, by Monday and Tuesday, he had his Porter Way broadcast and reflecting on the fight. He even he brought Terrence on there to be on there with him to talk about things and everything. Did you see any of that stuff?
Oh, heck yeah, man. I thought that was epic right there, man. I enjoyed every second of it. And even enjoying the fact that I think more athletes should be like that, how Shawn Porter is. It's almost like an actor action review, like we do in the military. You go out on battle, you do an actor action review. You have to decompress rather than sitting there soiling, moping over it. And sometimes it's cool to laugh about it. Like it's an experience you would live with. It's a classic experience. Get back out there and talk about it. And it's therapeutic for a fighter as well. I really like that. And I like how candid the conversation was. And I also like how Shawn Porter ended it when he knew the comedian got on. Like, this dude gonna take it somewhere else. All right, Shawn, peace out. I mean, Terrence, peace out.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, and it shows the respect that they have for each other. Both Shawn wanted to invite him on, and that Bud wanted to participate. Before we talk about that a little further, how about the Sky Sports interview that he did Sunday morning? Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that one.
Okay, you might want to go back and check that out, and I'll tell everybody that's listening, catch it on replay, whatever. Go check out Shawn Porter's Sky Sports interview the Sunday morning after the fight, where he's sitting up there, he's wearing a red T-shirt. There's probably a full version of that interview, but I caught the 5-minute version of it. It's like 5, almost 6 minutes. And what I loved about that interview, he spoke of Shawn, he spoke of Bud in a sense of, he said when he took the fight, he knew that Bud was the type of fighter he is and everything, but he said that he felt like he still was able to deal with that, and he wasn't sure if Bud was able to deal with him and his style. But he said, but when we got in there and I started doing what I was doing, he was like, this is the first fighter I ever been in the ring with that when I'm doing what I'm doing, like being aggressive, being physical and things like that, it didn't bother him. He said, I could tell that it wasn't bothering him. He was comfortable. I never made him uncomfortable. And he said that was one of my key elements to the fight, of trying to make him uncomfortable. And he said he was doing things to me that I had never had done to me before in there. And he was being honest, Reggie. He was talking. This was not his dad wasn't there. It was just Sean and the reporter from Sky Sports interviewing him. And he was talking about like the levels. He said, I always thought like our levels were like here. But during the fight, I see him up here and I'm trying to get up there with him and it's not happening. He's like, I'm kind of mesmerized by the guy. I'm like looking at him like, dang, you know? And he said, man, so I'm still trying to process it right now, he says. He's like, because, you know, being physical, it was no biggie. Being aggressive, he liked it, you know? And he's like, I remember when we were younger, you know, Bud had a mean streak or whatever. And it's like, I thought that even that might come out in the fight or whatever. But he was calm and, you know, dealing with me and smiling and everything, you know. And it was a great interview just for like 6 minutes. Like I said, it could have been a longer one, but I caught the 6-minute version of it. And it made me like Sean because he was able to articulate how it made him feel not being able to do his due diligence against Bud. And when I was on Tay Jones' channel and panel show one night leading up to the fight, I had told Tay that Bud gonna knock him out. And he was like, man, I don't know. He's like, I've been seeing Bud in the gym and sparring. I saw him sparring a couple of guys and he had some rough business going on in there. He said, I ain't mentioning no names. But, you know, I was like, yeah, but that's sparring, Tay. You know, I'm in my mind, I'm saying that. But at the same time, I'm also saying he gonna beat Sean. It's like, dude, their styles mesh perfectly. But Sean's boxing IQ is not on Bud's level. His talent is not on Bud's level. But as an analyst, you can hear Sean articulate what was wrong. So he could actually see it himself. And he stopped short of saying the guy is better than me. But he's like, because the guy beat me, he's obviously better than me. You know what I'm saying? So he's smart in saying of his observations about the fight. But he gave Bud credit. And that was pretty damn cool. I thought that was pretty damn cool. And, you know, now to go on about the Porterway broadcast and having Bud on the show and everything, I thought that was really cool that they were able to talk about it and everything. It's the first time I ever seen anything like that too, because it's like, you know, Sean he's a retired boxer now, but it's like he had 2 jobs, you know. The guy that fought Bud Saturday and the guy that interviewed him on Monday. It's like, that's kind of crazy to see things go like that. But overall, I thought that was pretty cool, Reggie. I thought it was really impressive between these 2 men.
Yeah, that was dope, man. I like when fighters show this side of them, and when fighters who have faced one another can sit there and revisit these things, man, because some of the funniest things happen at the fights is that sometimes people become very cool with one another, man. And this is the way that man's supposed to settle things. And you just let things go, man. I'm looking forward to when all these, I love when I see the old fighters that have once faced each other in the ring. I like hearing when, I wish they would have did more of them, but Holyfield and Riddick Bowe sit there and talk back and forth. Who was it? Frazier? Who was it? Frazier and I think Ali and all of them sat down there and talked before. Even the most recent one with Sugar Ray and Tommy Hearn sitting there talking about one another and revisiting their fights. I love to see when Wilder and Tyson Fury can sit there and go over the 3 fights they had, like regardless of what they shaped out like. Those were classic moments that sit there and be able to speak openly about that. Let fans revisit it. That's what I like, man. And I'm glad that Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford are able to do it. But they're humble men. They're not caught up in ego. They're not caught up in celebrity status, the status of hierarchy. They're just men. And when things are done, they let it sit to the wayside and we reflect on it like men should.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Like you said, men like that can lead the way. You know what I mean? It's like they can show these young guys how to behave, respond, and everything, and interact with one another, and not allow it to be so, like, I'm sure you heard earlier today about the back and forth over Twitter between Lil B-Hop and Shakur Stevenson. Profanity laced comments over the Twitter at each other, calling each other out of their names and this and that. And it's like, although people would love to see those two guys engage in a match, but it was such classlessness, that allowed them to behave like they did. I didn't like that at all. And it's just, something to, you be wary of it, and how these men behave like that. It's not cool, not cool at all. So, but yeah, man, these fighters, they realize it, especially when they share the ring with someone. It's either a high caliber fight like this was between them, or when guys face each other multiple times, because Barrera and Morales, I don't know if they ever are going to be friends at all, because that's something like, it's almost like a political position between those two, but they had disdain for each other and gave us wonderful fights as a result of all that energy that they had at each other. So that's one thing that can be spoken about those guys. But let me ask you, another fight that's coming up has these guys been out in the news, and I caught Brian Custer interview with both of them, and that's Tank Davis and Isaac Cruz. That fight is coming up fast approaching, and they're starting to promote it and everything, as they're training and getting ready. It's just in a few weeks, I think. December 4th, it's either the 3rd or the 4th, something like that. But they're getting ready to get it on, Reggie. And this might be an interesting little scrap for however long it lasts. I don't think it's going the distance. But you got two guys who, are aggressive, got that puncher's mindset and everything, and they looking to get it on. And I definitely think Tank is favored in the fight, but it can be action-packed, or it could just be a quick blowout. But I will be tuning in. What are your thoughts on this? And have you heard some of the chatter around their fight coming up?
No, I don't got too much to say because I don't know how to gauge Isak as a matchup for Tank. But I'm sure Isak ain't going to go in here and lay down for Tank. The back and forth chatter, I haven't heard too much chatter. I know I've seen the one thing where Leonard Ellaby in their one press conference kind of took kind of the highlight of it after how he spoke about that clown Eddie Hearns, which I agree with him. But as far as back and forth, I haven't heard too much as far as if there's drama or anything like that.
No, but, I guess what I should have said was the back and forth is about the Styles matchup, that people are talking about the fight. I didn't elaborate, but that's what I was meaning, because it's like this kind of juxtaposition of styles between these two guys can make for like a Hagler Hearns type moment or something.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I don't know too much about Isak. That's why it's hard for me to see what the matchup will be. I think I remember he has quite a few knockouts on the record, but I don't know if that really poses anything for Tank to have to worry about. And like Tank also expressed like a while ago, I think in the build up for when him and Rolly was supposed to go at it, what Tank spoke about, man, stop viewing me as a knockout artist. I can fight. And that's the thing that Tank can find himself separating from guys. Where most people view that he's just going to go and knock that dude out, Tank wants to express that he is a complete and high-level and highly skilled boxer. And so Tank can take this fight wherever he wants.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. And I've spoken about Tank's boxing ability. He can box. And you know, they brought him in to help Porter prepare for Bud Crawford in sparring. And, you know, Brian Custer was able to ask him about that. And he talked about it. He's like, hey, man, you know, I'm a man, he a man. We did what we had to do. It was business. He's like, but I let him know I was there, you know. And he's like, and he let me know what he was about. He's like, because, you know, I do feel like he tried to test me a little bit. That's what Tank said. But Tank is growing up, you know. He may be growing up slower in certain areas, you know, like outside the ring, that we would like to see that process take place a little faster. But as far as being a fighter in the ring, Reggie, I think that Tank can, I think he can handle himself in there, you know. And I've heard like some of the sparring work he's gotten. He's gotten some work against some pretty guys that are pretty much bigger than he, you know. One of the things that I noticed too was, as Custer was asking him certain questions, he was not willing to endorse anything. And he's becoming a diplomat at that, because I know what they're doing, and I think you know what they're doing. Some of our listening audience might know, and some may not. But Tank is about big business, and he's about enterprise in a different way than AB was, but I think he's getting the economic results that they wish that AB could have gotten. But I think AB's lack of maturity affected him tremendously, and that he just couldn't get out of his own way with certain things in his personal life. So Tank is being guarded against that, and I think they're optimizing him. They realize that they hold him back, people want to see him. When they unleash him, people are going to come. Then they go back to holding him back, and then they find a different selection for him for his next outing, and they look at that long and hard before they put him out there again, because they want a box office hit every time out. And when those numbers add up, and the numbers and volumes of people who show up produce, you can't deny his stardom. And I think that's how they moving him. And I did a video about that. And I'm like, okay, as long as they're going to move him like that, I don't mind, Reggie, because aren't they moving certain other fighters of different nationality similarly?
Indeed they are.
Yeah. So, and Tank might be the one who can match that singularity. And remember, there's some other fighters, they get in their own ways. But if they decide they're going to do something in D.C., if they decide they're going to do something in Atlanta, if they decide they're going to do something at the Barclays Center, it's like the people are going to come out for Tank. Whether they're riding with him or want to see him lose. It's like he just happens to be that guy right now that has that type of crossover appeal. And when I say crossover, you know, we'll support him. But some of us rail against him because of his success and all of that. But there's also other people that just want to see him beaten, right? And it's like, it's so funny. You got people out there that want to see a dude lose, and they'll pay to do it. It's like, even though he win in hand over fist, you know, it's like they don't care. They're gonna get his ass this time. You know, it's like they just want to spend the money. And they spend and they spend, and Leonard Ellaby can buy more and more nasal spray because they're going to be successful in all of this, man, as they do their thing. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
So, but yeah, that's, you know, pretty much, you know, my thoughts on that, you know, about Tank Davis, man. Pretty much my thoughts on that. But, yeah, we got a nice card coming up with Figueroa and Steph Fulton, man. This fight right here, Reggie, it's gonna be a very interesting fight. Definitely a fight of opposing styles, and definitely a fight of I'm highly anticipating this fight. It's this Saturday, tomorrow night on Showtime. I think this fight is going to go a little bit different than people might think it would, Reggie. What are your thoughts on this fight as it's fast approaching tomorrow night? They had the weigh-in today.
Man, they say styles make fights, and I don't know what the hell is Figueroa's style, but it works. I've been cheering against this dude for the longest. When I think he's going to lose, he goes in there and stop who I think is supposed to defeat him. He's a tough and rugged guy. He's big for the division as far as height goes. Leans on people. He hits them with punches that just wears them down. He knows how to wear on an opponent and begin to break them down. And he's been effective with the tools that he comes in there with and along with that style. I'm looking forward to seeing if Stephen Fulton can win, but this ain't no guarantee for Stephen Fulton. I don't care. I'm not into the popularity or just because he's black gonna make him win. I ain't into none of that. I look at it for what it is, a fight. You got to go into it with a mindset, a focus, and a skill. Brandon he's been doubted, so I don't think any of that doubt, people doubting him, plays a part into how he comes into a fight. I mean, he's rugged, and it works. And like I said, I've been going against him since seeing him and his brother. And this brother right here has been victorious a lot, dominant in his victories. I just want to see what Fulton can do against this guy. Does his height and reach affect Fulton? Does he punch hard? Can he take Fulton's punches? The guy show he can take a punch. So I'm just looking forward to it. I want Fulton to win, but this ain't no easy walk in the park against this dude. I'm my hands in the air on who gonna win because I can't doubt this dude Figueroa anymore.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was watching some fight footage of both guys the other day, and I was going to do a video of it, and I just figured I'd just go ahead and talk about it tonight on the show. The one thing that I've seen about Figueroa is Reggie, he's got that inner strength that is kind of throwback to fighters from a older era, like the black and white era of watching boxing film. You know, the Lewis and Graciano and those kind of guys. You know, he's tough and rugged, but he has skills as well. But his skills aren't the type of skills like a guy like Steph has, but it's still effective because he doesn't use his height and reach, but he's able to fight from mid-range and close in, you know. So he has a way of imposing himself on people, and he doesn't tire of that. He's had a cut or two in the past, you know, but he's always been able to turn it up where that doesn't become a factor. And I remember talking with Kurt Sugar about this fight a few months ago. And Kurt said that, and I'm giving Kurt credit for saying this, that so, you know, everybody, this is coming from Kurt. He says, if Fulton fights Figueroa's fight, he's going to lose. And I heard them in an interview earlier today, and Fulton was talking about fighting Figueroa's fight. Now, something can happen in the ring that, you know, will make him fight the fight, and he'll say, oh, I better go back to doing what I do best. You always want to try to feature yourself at your best. And when the lights are on, certain things can happen. A guy can hit you with a shot. It don't phase you too much, but the whole crowd think he really hurt you. Now all of a sudden you got to try to prove to the crowd, I wasn't hurt. He just got you off your square. Something like a knockdown can rattle you. You'd be like, dang, I can't believe that sucker knocked me down. 2-3 rounds later, you're still worried about you got knocked down. Distracting. This is the type of fight that has to be won on Fulton's behalf with ring smarts and ring IQ. Your physicalness, I don't think when you got a guy like Figueroa, you can outman him like with what's inside of you against what's inside of him. Because he lived that his life. Remember, he got the model looks and stuff, but all people always thought he was a punk. And then they get in there with him and find out that this dude is something else. Sticking to your disciplines, being able to box the guy when you need to box, take advantage of punching opportunities when they're there. Don't lay in with him on the inside and everything. Don't let him be an octopus swarming you. You got to box smart, man. And let's just be honest, Reggie. Some of our young fighters always think they got to prove a point. When Meldrick Taylor fought Julio Cesar Chavez, he could have easily beat Chavez because his hand speed was about 35 miles an hour faster than Julio Cesar Chavez. But he always felt like he needed to stand in there to catch the receipt. And by catching those receipts, it caught up to him. So much to the degree that not only did he end up, the fate of the fight, he got stopped. But they say he swallowed a pint of his own blood, Reggie, in that fight. A pint of his own blood. Just because he was too stubborn to stick and move, catch Chavez coming in with combinations, tie him up, push him away, make him start all over again for 12 rounds. Because Mel was not going to knock Chavez out. Pernell Whitaker did it. But Pernell Whitaker did it at a slower pace than Mel could, because Mel's hand speed was twice as fast as Sweet Pea. And Sweet Pea had fast hands. Schoolboy Steph, Cool Steph, whatever his nickname is, he needs to be cool under fire. He needs to be smart under fire. And he needs to use his ring IQ to be successful in this fight. Figueroa only needs to be who he has been. That's the difference here. So when I hear Steph say, oh, I can fight his fight, I'll fight his fight, Either way, it don't matter. It should matter. You're getting punched in the head for a living, brother. And the idea has always been to hit and not be hit. So if you can maximize that principle and be disciplined to carry it out, you therefore put yourself in a greater position of being victorious. Anything else, you're dangling meat near a cage of a lion's den. Huh? And you could be doing all right and happen to slip. Or an instance of not keeping your guard or something like that. Or even in close and you bang heads and you get the worst end of it. Now your eye is wide open. These things can happen. So, I'm very concerned about his discipline. Because Figueroa is going to be who he has always been. He can't change. And he won't need to. For the rest of his career, he can fight like he does, because we're in an era, Reggie, where a lot of these guys, first of all, a lot of them aren't tough as nails. Secondly, a lot of them aren't as skilled as they need to be or disciplined outside the ring, because, you got all these guys who have fat camps and stuff like that. And then some guys are just totally not polished up on their boxing skills. So leaves a lot on the table, doesn't it? So when you see these things and you say, wow, so a guy like this can survive through that. And all he needs is that shot, just like Rocky said in his original movie, right? All I like is a shot. Huh? Yeah, this is it. So you go in there, you play around, and you think, oh, I'm tough as him. Okay. So shout out to Kurt Sugar, and we wish Kurt well. He's still on the mend and missing Kurt from the airwaves, but he said that. He said if Steve fights Figueroa's fight, he loses. And I take Kurt's sentiments to heart on that, because we've seen it so many times in the past when somebody was trying to do something that they didn't even need to do. And they put their butt out there, and the butt bandit gets them. Huh? So what do you think about that, Reggie? And Kurt saying that if Steph fights Figueroa's fight, he loses.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Because nobody defeats Figueroa at his style. Nobody. And Fulton to be a fool to try to engage with him. And it's a high probability that he falls victim of it. That he falls right into wanting to fight that style. Because he almost did it in his last fight, where he went back in. I think he was fighting Angelo, where he went in there and they kind of battled out for whoever was to outwill the other guy. This dude Figueroa's a different factor being in there. So, yeah, if he falls into fighting that Figueroa style, yeah, he's definitely going to lose in that one. And it can turn out to be brutal, too.
Yeah. There's some guys, Reggie, that you just don't want to engage them, because of levels. And when I talk about levels, I'm not talking about, the levels of skills, but the depths that a person will go. Like Rocky Marciano, for example. He once fought about Reggie where his nose was halfway hanging off his face from a cut. It's like split. He still fought on. Most people would have said, that's it. My nose hanging off my face, man. I got to stop now. Rocky just kept on till he stopped the guy. You can knock him down with a solid shot. He'll get right back up and come right back at you. You can hit him with your best shot. He's still walking in on you. And he's pounding you on your arms. He's pounding you on your shoulders. He's hitting you to the body. And you getting tired. And the fight is scheduled for 15. And you in round 7. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that becomes mental anguish then. It's like, I got 6-7 more rounds to go. Oh. You go back to the corner, you like, round card girl got the card up. You just finished round 8. You say, what round is this? It's round 9. You're like, oh my God. It's true. It happens. So to have guys that are out there, listen, it's interesting, man. I'm reading this comment by Jay Petty out there in the chat. He says, I think he'll beat him at his style or Brandon's style. He cut from that cloth. People might be in for a surprise. Fulton about to prove he can do it all. If he's that good, Jay Petty, he shouldn't have to fight his fight. That's the whole conversation Reggie and I were just expressing. But I understand. You guys like to see a warrior come through and show his wares. But like Georgie Benton said so famously, he's like, win this one, look good the next time. Huh? You gotta fight smart, man. Boxing is a thinking man's game. Regardless of you see punches flying. There are some people that they can fight a career in one night. I just gave you the example of it when I spoke about Meldrick Taylor a moment ago. He had a career in one night, was beating the crap out of Chavez, but took a crap of punishment too, and was never the same after that. I don't care how talented Steph is. I don't care how tough he is. I want to know how smart he is and how he can put that together. Leave the tough man stuff for everybody else, but just be better than them. Remember, I profess to love the sport more than the individual. And he that listens to the words that I'm speaking, if he be good as he's advertised, he should be able to continue on. Sharks sometimes swim into shallow waters just because they're greedy enough to go for a little dinner. Huh? If you don't believe me, check Florida. It's happening almost every other week. Am I right, Reggie?
Absolutely.
And mind you, we never said that Steph losing this fight. Never said that. But his best way of winning this fight is not being available for Figueroa, who only wants to fight one kind of way. They asked the man, they say, well, you got height and reach, and why you don't? He's like, I don't know. I like to do this. I this is what I do. Well, make what he does dumb for him and make it smart for you so you can be successful. That's all I'm saying. Now, regardless of how it turns out, you got it on tape right here. If it don't play out to his own advantages, you will have heard right here one more documentation of like, okay, maybe he should have tuned in to the Friday Night Chop session. But, you know, I'm looking forward to a good fight. But Kurt's words are ringing in my ears because I've seen it so many times, you know. Michael Nunn. He was far better head, shoulders, waist, feet above James Toney. And Angelo Dundee kept telling him, move, be my man, stop laying on the inside with him. Stand outside, pop, pop, move side to side. Don't be a stationary target for the guy. Michael Nunn nodding his head in between rounds. Go right back out there next round, laying in with Tony. He was still winning the rounds, hands down. I think James Toney might have won 2 rounds. Going into the 11th. James Toney, trainer, told him, you're giving this up, kid. It's everything you're looking for. He's like, I ain't giving shit up. In Michael Nunn's corner, Angelo Dundee is like, Michael, stop laying on the inside. Stay on the outside, pop him with the jab, give him the lateral movement, blah, blah, blah. Nunn shaking his head. And he's out there standing in front of James Toney, leaning inside like Michael was known to do, dip down against the shorter guy. I think James Toney was like 5'9" or something like that. Michael Nunn was 6'2". What you leaning in on that man for? James Toney threw a left hook, right hand left hook, right on Michael Nunn's chin, and he went down, flat on his back. He beat the count, but he was dazed like a son of a gun. And when the ref let them continue fighting, James leaped into him again with a couple more shots, and Mike fell face first into the ropes, and they had to stop the fight. Knocked out for trying to lay in there and fight the other guy's fight. Far more talented, far more superior. But boxing IQ in the back of his drawers where the poo-poo come out. Yeah. He made James Toney that night by giving his chin up. So what, you take a shot once or twice, but after you get tired and everything, your defense, picking your hands up and stuff, it get a lot slower. A guy can catch you and you will go to sleep. And a dead man is a dangerous man. In the ring, You think you got him and he'll get you. And remember, I said this is like what Figueroa wants. This is what he does. He swims in those shallow waters. And even if Steph pulls out a fight, fighting that way, that's not necessarily a victory because of the punishment that he comes away have taken. He might have lost 2 fights in that one, but still had a victory. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying, Reggie?
No, I'm following right with what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah. You might have the victory tomorrow night, but it would have been like they took 2 fights out of you or more. Totally unnecessary. So that's why I say what I say, you know. But yeah, you know. You got anything else on this one?
No, that was all I got on that.
Okay. The one other fight that I wanted us to talk about. It's interesting, man, that we getting all these fights back to back like this. Don't even give you a chance to exhale. It's like if they could spread them out, man, that would help so much. But they refuse to do that, Reggie. They refuse to spread these fights out. But the other fight is the Lopez versus Kambosos fight, which is, again, that's a Matchroom promotion and taking place in New York, Reggie, at MSG. This fight has finally made it through the weigh-in. We still need to hit a bell for the first round for it to take place because we've seen some things happen, haven't we? But Kambosos is really going to try his best to win the fight. I think his chance of winning was greater when it was first announced, when they were supposed to first have it before the first postponement. I think that they have played games with this man and they have drained him, Reggie. They, come back, train again, stop. Okay, it's a delay. Come back and train again, stop. I think that they've done that with purpose and on purpose to Kambosos. Something tells me that that's the case. I hope it's not, but something is just weighing on me, telling me that that's what they were doing. Because remember when Teofimo first won the fight over Lomachenko, he wasn't so anxious to get back in the ring, and he was partying and celebrating and, living the life of a champion that had the victory that he had. But something tells me that Kambosos was really, really ready for him and hyped and charged for that. But these delays and everything, even though he wouldn't admit to it, Reggie, I think that they may have taken some of the piss out of Kambosos just because of the start, stop, restart, and all of that. You know what I mean? It's just, and Teofimo also now recently announced that I think it was yesterday, if not the day before, he's actually coming into the fight with some kind of injury or whatever. It's like, why would you say that? Just in case you lose, you have a built-in excuse? Or is it something else? I don't know, man, but I would like to see this fight come and go, having taken place. Maybe Kambosos win or just beat the guy up really bad. Yeah, I don't know. But what are your thoughts on this, Reggie?
Man, I'm going to be rooting like hell for Kambosos to be able to pull off probably one of the biggest upsets of 2021. I hope he can, but I also got to keep in mind that Teofimo is the dude at this division, and he's dangerous, he's serious, and it's going to be hard for Kambosos to be able to pull this off. Kambosos can be just looking to try to find his work off of counters, trying to land in shots when Teofimo may throw something and miss, and then he tries to get off. Kambosos is going to have to lead at times. Also have to be mindful to keeping himself protected. on defense after throwing shots, because Teofimo is a very good counter, a powerful counter puncher. And I've seen with Kambosos, some of his fights, he leaves his hands down. I know Kambosos is going to be going in here with high emotions, because he truly doesn't like Teofimo. He really doesn't like Teofimo, but hopefully he goes in here, sets up his shots. He sets up the timing to try to catch Teofimo with something, because I want him going here and stop Teofimo, to go here and take these belts. But that's going to be a hard task, because Teofimo is the dude. And I think Teofimo may end up continue to hold on to these titles. I just don't like what Teofimo and him stand for, because now I hear there's talk of him dropping the belts or something and leaving the division to go off and run up to 140 or some crap that I think I was seeing. I just want before he can do that Kambosos go in here and upsets him. Kambosos' confidence is through the roof. Kambosos doesn't fear Teofimo, neither does Kambosos' father. They equally hate each one of them. So I hope Kambosos go in here. He stays smart in this fight. He looks to bring the fight to Teofimo. He keeps his hands up, and he touches Teofimo, because Teofimo don't like getting punched back in the face. He's used to throwing the punches, but he doesn't like to get punched in the face. So hopefully Kambosos is doing all that, propping himself up in these weigh-ins, and anytime they face off, that he lives up to it inside that ring, and he doesn't freeze up, but that he does not take one of those big devastating punches from Teofimo, because Teofimo, he jumps forward in these punches. He throws and twists over a lot of weight in these punches. So Kambosos got to bring them hands up. But that's my thoughts on it. I think Teofimo's the better skilled of the two for me, but I want Kambosos to pull off this major upset.
Yeah, it's something about Kambosos. A question on the table is, will he be able to take those single shots from T.O. when he becomes very explosive? That's the thing we like to find out. If he can do that, he can stay in the fight and things can happen. The only thing is that when T.O. has hit guys with that explosiveness, and he still has that quickness as well, it hasn't bode well for opponents. He caught Comey like that. He caught a couple other guys. It's like it's a shock to them. I know that he studied a lot of Roy Jones, and he tried to do or emulate those things that Roy was doing. But I don't know where T.O. is mentally right now, because his personality, he didn't have one of the greater personalities to begin with. But after his success over Lomachenko, he really started, talking like he had really accomplished a lot of stuff. The only way to get to that level would be had he run the fight back against Lomo and defeated him a second time. But he seemingly has avoided that option. He stalled this man out, who was a number one contender, I think, for one of these belts. He stalled this man out with 3 different, dates for this fight. Now, I know one of them they say wasn't his fault, because it was supposed to be, what was it? Triller didn't sell enough tickets or whatever. I don't know what the case, but then it was supposedly COVID. Then it was something else. I don't know, man. But I will say this. If he's not all there mentally, and that's what I mean about Teofimo, this could be a great shot for Kambosos. He should take advantage of those opportunities. Don't be reckless. Be smart. Fight with controlled violence. Don't go wading in, leaving yourself open so this kid can capitalize on you. But just, I don't know, some of the best fighters have fought like under that controlled violence thing. I remember when Marco Antonio Barrera fought the Prince, It was one of Barrera's best performances, because all that hype and stuff around the Prince, he didn't really like all of that or whatever, and he wanted to just prove he was best. And he went out there round after round, very disciplined, kept his hands up for defense and everything, because Prince was quick with his hands and powerful. Barrera blocked all that stuff, never gave the Prince a chance to hit him with any of that stuff, awkward stuff. A lot of the things that Kevin Kelly was supposed to do. And Barrera beat the crap out of the Prince and physically did some things to him too to let him know he was a man. And it was impressive. So impressive that the Prince only fought one more time after that. He only fought to get a victory because he didn't want to go out with a loss. But he fought some lowly fighter and retired after that. But Barrera did that, and it was one of the best performances I saw where a guy really didn't like the other guy so much, but he never showed that in the ring. He showed his discipline. He boxed well. He did those things. If Kambosos can take a page out of that book, be very controlled, make T.O. pay for the mistakes he's going to make, because he will make some. Get him into the later portion of the fight. Then start doing some good stuff. So that's what I see there. But maybe even talking to T.O. in clinches in his ear. Man, that's all you got? I thought you was better than this. They told me you could fight or what, just to, because I don't believe that T.O. is very mentally stable. Do you guys remember, what was it, just a couple years ago? He was on a flight or something. He was crying about his girlfriend and stuff. He was like, my family don't like my girl and this and that. I'm like, really, dude? Really? He was, and we were talking about it. It was like we did some shows where we mentioned that and talked about it or whatever, but it's like, he's still the same dude. Just got a few more dollars in the bank after his victory over Lomachenko. But how long ago did the Lomachenko fight happen? He ain't even been in the ring to fight another fight. And definitely didn't want to fight Lomachenko in a rematch, which is why he's now talking. It ain't so much he running away from Devin Haney, because he don't never have to fight Devin Haney because he could just avoid. But Lomachenko is the one. And remember, Lomo came back and fought that kid Nakatani and beat the crap out of Nakatani when we were thinking that Nakatani might get Lomachenko. And that went that way simply because Loma is mad now. He's rededicated now. He's like, man, I let that chump beat me, and he's a tiger again. It happens. T.O. don't want that Loma smoke no more. And he gonna go up in weight or whatever he can do to avoid it. So that's another way to look. And what are your thoughts on that, Reggie? The fact that he really don't want to give Loma a rematch.
It's a lot of reasons I don't like Teofimo. That's one of them. The belts. It's a lot of stuff, man.
Tell us how you really feel, Reggie.
I just don't like the guy, man.
But I feel you, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now, I say he says a lot of outlandish stuff along with his father. They don't back it up. All these other maneuverings. I just think he wants the quick money. He wants to get up out of there. I don't think they want to stay in this game of boxing too long. I think they want to go off into some other ventures. I don't see them making this a long career. I don't see their names being of relevance within the history of the sport. I think they're just going to try to capitalize off the big money that is out there, get a couple of these fights that they feel as if they'll cherry pick themselves through paydays, and then they'll exit up out of there. But I think they may derail that. Some fighters going to derail that.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said like about him and his dad for the sport. I think characters like that, and I'm not calling them characters, I'm talking about their character in the sport, is not good for the sport. There's an underlying ugliness about what they reflect and exude that kind of puts like a bad taste in your mouth, and we need those kind of individuals out of the sport of boxing. We got so much to clean up in the sport. We don't need that mess too. He'll lie straight to your face in front of the media, in front of any microphone or camera. You remember Eddie Hearn had to tell him you know, on camera, you're not undisputed. It's like we've gone through so much with this kid, and it's only been a year, Reggie. It's like you would have think with all of the stuff that we've had to deal with this guy that it's been like 2-3 years, but it hasn't, bro. It's only been a year. Less than, because he beat Loma like a year ago, but it's like he hasn't had a fight since then, but he had a million sound bites and interviews and stuff. I listened to an interview on him yesterday where he was sitting down talking to that ring announcer with the dreads, that Dave Diamante, and that guy has a podcast. And I just wanted to hear what T.O. was going to say over there, because that's like a different type of broadcast, you know. So I listened to it, and do you know he was on there talking about he's a 2-time undisputed champion? He actually said that, Reggie, out of his mouth. He's a 2-time undisputed champion.
God damn.
Yeah, I'll send you the link of it when we get off. I'll send you that link. But it's like he's sitting there. It's about a 20-minute interview he's doing with Dave Diamante, and he's like just talking crap, bro. Talking crap. And I'm like, who does this kid think he is, man? And the guy was too dumb to challenge him on anything that he was saying, because he was just sitting there stroking his ego. And I'm like, you know what? We don't need people like that in the sport of boxing. We got so many problems. Judges, officiating, sanctioning bodies, ridiculous fees, cheating, doping. We don't need that too. But, you know, to hear that interview with the guy, and I'm like, wow, can you imagine someone who don't know a lot about boxing sitting up here listening to this guy? You would have thought like, wow, he's a real exciting dude. I got to go check him out. All you need to do is hear that interview, bro. And you'll know all you need to know about this guy and the BS that he brings with himself. Ridiculous. That interview he did with Devin Haney on DAZN, where they were ringside after the fight or whatever, and they was chopping it up, and he was lying on Devin, and he was saying all things, and he says to Devin right there, he was like, you keep talking about the WBC. I'm surprised you're not carrying your belt with you right now. But then, just weeks later, at the Canelo fight, he walks up into the post fight, and he's got his whole arsenal of belts with him to take a picture against the real undisputed champion. But how does he tell Dave Diamante that I'm a 2-time undisputed champion? In what universe? Because it's definitely not this one. Maybe he needs medication. I don't know. And people who will let him say things like that, dude, you got to be crazy your damn self. The guy has only had like 16 fights or something, right? How is he a 2-time undisputed champion? Somebody please explain that to me right now. So yeah, let's go Kambosos. Shit. I don't know, man. It's ridiculous, Reggie. Whew. But anyway.
All I'm hoping is Kambosos turning to Sugar Ray Leonard tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping, man. Pull off this upset, Kambosos. Take these belts away. Move these guys to the side. Humble them.
Yeah. Every once in a while, fate does take a turn, don't it? And we kind of need that for this fight tomorrow night between them, man. Because I don't think many of us can take too much more of Teofimo, man. Especially, you know, when you talk about what's happening in the sport and people like he and his dad, and don't forget, they're holding up the opportunities for Devin as well, because Loma ducked Devin in lieu of a fight with Teofimo because he thought that Teofimo would be an easier opponent. And how that blew up and backfired in his face, you know. But that's Lomo's fault. It's not Devin Haney's fault, because Devin Haney was out here raring to go, like, you know, like a contending fighter should be, and they didn't make it happen. You know, they didn't make it happen. So, but yeah, Kambosos got a chance to kind of right the ship, and we can go from there. But I don't know, Reggie. I don't like when these guys get this kind of shine, and there's so many other good fighters out there that deserve the attention, the coverage, and things like that, you know. So,
and see, the other thing why I want Kambosos to pull this off, because I already like what Kambosos is talking. His next pursuit is Devin Haney if he unifies these titles.
Right.
On the other side, you don't hear that same kind of energy from Teofimo Lopez. You don't hear a lot coming from this dude.
Yeah, and it makes a difference too, because you can see where, Kambosos wants to accomplish some things, and you know, defeating Lopez would be one great thing, and then to go on and try to unify or whatever, that's another great thing. It's the type of step that fighters can make, because you're still young enough. Even if you lose, you can bounce back. But some of these other guys like Tio, they have this notion that as long as I don't fight the guy, I can still run around and still claim to be the man. But that's backwards ass thinking. And we see that a lot in our society, Reggie. I think since 2012, I would go back that far, that people seemingly justify their ignorance with something that is not suited with being common sense. It's like we've seen a shift in the paradigm of our world, and it's across the board through everything in life. And I go back to 2012 because, remember, that was the Mayan calendar ending year and things like that, and people were wondering what would happen. Well, I think we've seen what happened, huh? The world just became a darker place as a result of whatever transpired at that point. And it slowly got worse and worse each subsequent year. Look at who we had in the White House. Look at who we got in the White House now. It's like, dude, it's ridiculous. And it's like we're going downhill in a gasoline-filled barrel into a fiery pit. That's what it is, bro. But anyway, go ahead and give us your final thoughts on tonight's show, Reggie, and let everybody know where they could find you. And are you calling the fights tomorrow?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think I should be calling the fights. There's so many fights going on. I even want to watch the one on Triller, because I want to see Shannon Briggs and Rampage Jackson and a couple of those cross sports matchup. But they stacked so many fights on for tomorrow. It's going to be hard to catch everything. But I'm definitely going to call Teofimo versus Kambosos. I got to see the way that one play out. But I'm probably be all over the place catching up on all these fights that they have going on for tomorrow. But Teofimo, Kambosos, and I'll definitely try to catch Figueroa versus Steve Fulton. But I hate when they do this, but it is what it is. I'll try to get the results of them, because as long as they get in the ring, that's all that matters. But they got to start using these other dates in the week. Tuesdays would be good. Thursdays, Sunday would be good. But that's my final thoughts on there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. And we'll be back with a post-fight show tomorrow night after the cards have ended. I look forward to it being a great fight. Look forward to some action. Hopefully we see some knockouts and things of that nature. But yeah, this has been another Friday night chop session with Stormybman. I saw that the brother 503 Lion had peeped in the door. I'm sorry we were talking so much I didn't get a chance to acknowledge your name out there, but salute to you. Thank you for stopping in. We're going to get on up out of here. We got, this was Friday night chop session, number 133. We called it Put Your Mouth Where Your Fists Are. So for my man Boxing Conversation with Reggie Owens, this is Stormybman. We're going to sign off for now. Catch you guys tomorrow evening on the post-fight show. And salute to everybody out there. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.